Welcome back, students. So today we will start our second chapter, that is force and laws of motion. So first video is about force, that already we studied in chapter 10 in 8th standard. Okay. So what is force? What are the effects of force? How we will represent it? What is a balanced force? Unbalanced force? All those things we will discuss in the first video. So what is a force? That you know the answer. Force means it's a push or a pull. It's a push or a pull. Then what is the SI unit of force? SI unit of force is Newton. SI unit of force is Newton. Now what are the effects of force? Before that, what are the different types of forces? In 8th standard you studied about, that is mainly we can divide it into two, that is contact force and non-contact force. Contact force and non-contact force. Again this contact force is divided into two, that is muscular force and frictional force. Muscular force and frictional force. Muscular force means the force exerted by the muscles of our body or the force exerted by the muscles of animals, that is termed as muscular force. Now frictional force, that is a force between the two objects when one object tries to move over the other. When one object tries to move over the other object, there will be a force in between the two surfaces of contact, and that force is known as a frictional force. The frictional force will be acting in the opposite direction of motion. Frictional force will be acting in the opposite direction of motion. Then non-contact force, that's divided into three subdivisions are there. First one is electrostatic force, second one magnetic force, then third one gravitational force. Okay. So this is we divide force into two main category, that is contact force and non-contact force. Now the SI unit of force is Newton. SI unit of force is Newton. Force is a vector quantity. Force is a vector quantity. In the first chapter we studied about scalars and vector quantities. Anything that can be measured, that is known as a physical quantity. That physical quantity is divided into two, scalar quantities and vector quantities. Vector quantities means the physical quantities which are represented by magnitude and direction. They are represented by both magnitude and direction. That is known as vector quantity. So SI unit of force is Newton. Force is a vector quantity, means it is having both magnitude and direction. Now suppose we will write, I have written it like this, 50 Newton in the east direction. So this 50 Newton represents the magnitude, and this east direction represents the direction. That east represents the direction. Now again this magnitude is divided into two. First one is a number part, that is 50, that is a number part, and Newton, that is a unit part. Number part and unit part. So when you write a physical quantity, if it is having both magnitude and direction, then that is a vector quantity. Now this magnitude part is again divided into two. One is the number part and the other one is a unit part. This one you studied in 8th standard. Next we will talk about the effects of force. What are the effects of force? First one, change the state of the object. Change the state of the object. means two states will be there for an object, either in the rest position or in the moving position. Either the object is at rest or in moving position. So, a force can change the state of an object. If it is at rest, we can apply force so that the object will start move. The object will start moving. So, from rest to motion. Suppose if an object is moving, if you want to stop that object, means you have to apply a force. So, we can change the state of the object. If the object is at rest, we can apply force and the object will move. If the object is moving, when we apply force in the opposite direction, then the object will comes to rest. Then second one, change the speed of the moving object. If you want to change the speed of the moving object, means if you want to increase or decrease the speed of the moving object, we need to apply a force. We need to apply a force. If you are applying a force in the direction of motion, if you are applying a force in the direction of motion, then the speed of that object will increase. Then the speed of the object will increase. If you are applying a force opposite to the direction of motion, then the speed of that object will decrease. Okay. So, if you are applying a force in the direction of motion, then the speed will increase. If you are applying a force opposite to the direction of motion, then the speed will decrease. Now, third one, we can change the direction of the moving object. If you want to change the direction of the moving object, when you play cricket, football, if you want to change the direction of that ball, means you have to apply force. Okay. In all cases, if you want to change the direction of a moving object, then you have to apply a force. Fourth point, changes the shape and size of the object. If you want to change the size and shape of the object, when you press an inflated balloon, the shape of the balloon will change. Pressing means you are applying force. So, if you want to change the shape of an object or size of an object, you have to apply a force. Okay. So, these are the four effects of force. These are the four effects of force. So, from this we will give a new definition for force. In 8th standard we studied about force is a push or a pull. Now, here in 9th standard we will derive or we will give a new definition for the force. A force is a physical quantity which causes motion in an object at rest or changes the direction of a moving object or changes the shape and size of an object or changes the speed of a moving object. So, instead of saying force is a push or a pull, we will say it like this. A force is a physical quantity which causes motion in an object at rest or changes the speed of a moving object or changes the direction of a moving object or changes the shape or size of an object. So, that is force. Here in first chapter we did not discuss anything about force. If you want to move an object, you must apply a force. In that first chapter we did not discuss anything about force. What is force? What is the reason for that movement? Nothing we discussed. We just considered the object is moving. Acceleration is increasing, acceleration is decreasing, velocity is increasing, velocity decreasing, it is moving with constant velocity. All those things we discussed. But we did not discuss what is the reason for that change in velocity. What is the reason for change in velocity? That we didn't discuss in the first chapter. So, here we will discuss what is the reason for that change in velocity. Why the object changes its direction? When it is moving in a straight line, if you apply a force, then definitely changes will be there, either in the direction or in the magnitude wise. Means the speed will increase or decrease. So, here in this chapter, we will discuss force and its related quantities. Okay. Then, in 8th standard, we discussed about balanced force and unbalanced force. What is balanced force? When two forces of same magnitude acting on an object from the opposite direction, then the net force will be 0. Then we will say that is a balanced force. That is a balanced force. So, here we will define it another way. When two forces of equal magnitude but acting in opposite direction of an object simultaneously, then the object continues to be in the state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line. Such forces acting on the objects are called balanced force. Such forces are known as balanced force. Just we defined it in another way. Okay. When two equal and opposite forces are acting on an object, the net force will be 0. The object will not change its state of motion, position. Means if the object is at rest, it will be at rest. The object will not move. Then we added one more term there. If the object is moving one, then it will not increase or decrease the speed. Okay. That we will explain after discussing first law of motion. Okay. So, when two forces of equal magnitude acting in the opposite direction in an object simultaneously, then the net force will be 0 and the object will not move. That is balanced force. So, what about unbalanced force? When two forces are acting on an object either in same direction or in opposite direction with different magnitude. With different magnitude. If they are acting in the same direction, then we will find the net force by adding it together. Then we will find it by adding the sum of the two forces. That is here. Sum of the two forces. Here on a box 5 Newton and 5 Newton is acting. So, we will find the net force by adding 5 Newton and 5 Newton, that is 10 Newton. Here two forces are acting in the opposite direction. So, the magnitude is different. So, how will you calculate the net force? The net force is calculated by the difference of the two forces, that is 10 Newton minus 5 Newton, that is equal to 5 Newton. Here the object will move in the direction of the bigger force, that is the object will move in the direction of the 10 Newton force. The object will move in the direction of the 10 Newton force. Here in balanced force, here this one is 5 Newton, here it is 5 Newton. So, net force will be equal to 0 Newton and the object will not move. Example for balanced force is in tug of war, two teams pulls the rope in the opposite direction. If the rope doesn't move in any direction, the force applied by the both teams are known as balanced force. In case of tug of war competition, two teams will pull the rope in the opposite direction with the same magnitude or with the same magnitude of force, then the rope will not move. Then we will say that force is a balanced one. Unbalanced one example, a bicycle will slow down if the rider stops pedaling it. The bicycle will slow down when the rider stops pedaling it. So, what will be the net force? The net force will be not equal to 0 and unbalanced force will be there. Net force is not equal to 0. Okay. So, that is about force and laws of motion. This one is just introduction about the chapter what we discussed in the 8th standard. Okay, what we studied in the 8th standard. So, in 8th standard you studied about force, different types of force, effects of force, balanced and unbalanced force. Just introduction part is this video. Okay. So, force here we will define it in another way. Force is a physical quantity which changes or which cause changes in the state of motion of an object, changes in the speed of a moving object, changes the direction of a moving object and changes the shape or size of an object. Now, four effects of force are there. First one, the object will change the state of position. Second one, the object will change the speed of the moving object. Third one, the object will change the direction of the moving object. Fourth one, the object will change the shape and size of the object. Object will change the shape and size of the object. All these things will happen if force is there. If force is there. If a car will not increase or decrease the speed, a balloon will not itself change the shape or size of the balloon. A moving ball on the ground will not change its direction. A book lying on the table will not change its position. So, if you want to change it, then you have to apply a force. Then you have to apply a force. If you want to change the position of a book on a table, or if you want to change the position of your furniture in your home or in your classroom, means you have to apply a force. If you want to increase the speed or decrease the speed of a cycle, then if you want to increase the speed, you have to apply a force by pedaling it faster. If you want to decrease the speed, you have to apply brakes. Due to frictional force, the speed will slow down and finally the bicycle will come to rest. So, you have to apply a force. If you want to change the position of an if you want to change the shape of an object, simply one, take a rubber band and stretch it. The rubber band will not change its state itself, or the rubber band will not change its shape itself. You have to stretch it. Then only it will change the shape. So, if you want to change any of this four effects, means if you want to change the position of an object, if you want to change the speed of a moving object, if you want to change the direction of a moving object, and if you want to change the shape of a object, means you have to apply a force. The object will not change its state or its speed or its direction or its shape. The object will not change its shape, state, speed or direction. If you want to change it, you have to apply a force. Okay. Thank you.